So just take us through the week's trade. It seems that we have had a pullback in some blue chips like Safaricom. What's standing out for you right now?
Well, we're seeing the local investors taking a bit of a front seat at the moment. We have had very strong foreign activity, and that was really what was driving the EABL, Standard Chartered, Kenya Commercial Bank, and the likes. And that rally has sort of eased off today. We did see a decline in volumes for the day, and that, I think, was really something we have been watching out for, considering the fact that we had the nominations for the different parties, for those who are going to be the governors and all the different elective seats. And I think that sort of had shifted a bit of focus from the market in the last 2 days. But we have seen that easing from those counters that were gaining so much because of foreign activity, and the shift has gone to those that are very being driven by local activity. For example, Diamond Trust, we've seen NIC and Kenyan, for example, which have actually gained really due to local demand and local activity.
Let's just turn our attention to some legislation that is going to affect listed companies. Government requiring that all public institutions surrender unclaimed cash. That's after a certain period of time. And that, of course, would mean dormant bank accounts would have to be taken into account, and it affects companies across the board. Firstly, what is your view on the kind of far-reaching implications this could have for companies? Is this a risk for banks?
Well, I don't think so. What has happened is we have huge unpaid dividends which have been lying there, and I think what the government is trying to do is to put them where they can actually look for a way to maybe have them in a holding account, which could sort of try to have these funds active. But I think also there is the issue of getting those investors who have uncollected funds and collected dividends, with all these companies to come forward and claim their dividends. And I think not enough has been done on that front, trying to to contact them, trying to, if it is next of kin, and trying to ease the process of actually accessing these funds before they are actually handed over to the government or to whatever system they want to put in place. I think there would need to be more to be done in terms of ensuring that we won't get a whole new avenue for litigation, for people saying that their funds were never they didn't know that these funds were meant to be collected, or I think it's a Pandora's box, really.
Yeah, and I suppose ultimately, as you said, just reuniting people with money they perhaps didn't know they had, which of course would be a good thing for those affected by that. Just take us through your expectations for trade going into next week. Which stocks are you looking at right now?
Well, I think now that we've seen the local investors start coming back in, and we've seen a bit of an easing, I think there's a bit of a mixed feeling on the market, considering that today we've seen those counters that have been driving the rally ease off, and then a sudden shift in terms of the investors and in terms of the stocks that have actually driven the move in the NIC 20 share index today. And I think going into the next week, we probably see a few days of a wait and see attitude. Personally, I've been thinking we will probably see quite a bit of liquidity in the market now that all the politicians know which party they're running on, and it is really the signal of the campaigns beginning. And now they can really campaign knowing exactly what they're after. So we could see quite a bit of local activity, considering there'll be a lot of liquidity, on the ground, and that will probably be good for the market to an extent. But then again, there's the political risk factor. We are going towards elections, and that, of course, is another issue to look at. Are we seeing foreigners maybe thinking they should ease off and take a wait and see position until we get to the elections.
I mean, what about news today that the likes of Goldplat, that mining company listed on the London Stock Exchange, is halting its expansion plans in Kenya? Because that, of course, an indication that foreign investors are scared off by proposed mining legislation where they have to take, well, the government has to take a 35% stake in the project. I mean, does that concern you, the implications of this going into other companies?
Well, I think generally the fact that we have had quite a few oil finds in the energy sector has become very vibrant. It's a devil's alternative, for lack of a better word, because one is them not being active and taking positions now. They might lose out in the long term in this, really lucrative emerging sector in the country. And then again, they also need to look at the political factor where they're seeing maybe, a new government, new policies maybe that might, change the whole ballgame. But then again, I think with our new constitutional dispensation, it's really down to the county governments, and that is quite clear on how to deal with a lot of these issues. So I don't see any reason for them to be worried.
And at the same time, the government is hosting the first ever trade mission from a delegation from South Africa. In fact, businessmen from the country here visiting Kenya. What are your thoughts on the potential of the relationship between Kenya and South Africa right now? Of course, keeping in mind Kenya very reliant on South African imports.
Well, the relations, I think we've seen a few South African companies that have tried to penetrate our market and not really, gotten a foothold. And I think that that's an area that South African companies would like to sort of pursue and see what maybe they're not doing right on our market. But then we are also expect that going forward, we will be seeing a lot of partnerships. I think especially in the retail outlets in Kenya, I think we would expect to be seeing the likes of Game and the big supermarket chains from South Africa trying to come into our market. I think Castle Lager might want to come back in, and all those different players. And so I think it's important. I mean, these are relationships that need to be built. It's really about, direct foreign investment coming into our economy. It's not something we are averse to, so it is a brilliant thing. I'm sure that they would be welcome, and competition is a good thing anyway.